Hi everyone. Today we are going to discuss an extremely important topic in anatomy and physiology called homeostasis, along with positive and negative feedback mechanisms. If you're watching us for the first time, make sure to subscribe and enable the bell icon for future notifications. This concept forms the foundation for understanding how the human body maintains balance and how disturbances can lead to disease. Almost every physiological system we study later, like endocrine, nervous, cardiovascular, and renal systems, depend on homeostasis. Before we begin, let's look at what you should be able to understand by the end of this lecture. After this session, you should be able to clearly define homeostasis, explain why it is important, identify the components of a homeostatic control system, and differentiate between negative and positive feedback mechanisms with suitable physiological examples. These objectives are important from both conceptual understanding and examination point of view. Homeostasis refers to the body's ability to maintain a stable internal environment even when the external environment changes. The word comes from Greek, homeo meaning same, and stasis meaning standing still. However, this does not mean the internal environment is absolutely constant. Instead, values like temperature, glucose, and pH fluctuate within a normal physiological range. This dynamic balance is essential for survival. Homeostasis regulates several internal parameters that are crucial for normal body function. These include body temperature, blood glucose level, blood pressure, water and electrolyte balance, oxygen and carbon dioxide levels, and the pH of body fluids. Even a slight deviation in any of these parameters can disturb enzyme activity and cellular metabolism, leading to serious health problems. Homeostasis is important because all biochemical reactions in the body occur under specific conditions. Enzymes function optimally only within narrow ranges of temperature and pH. If homeostasis fails, enzymes denature and metabolic reactions slow down or stop. Diseases such as diabetes mellitus, hypertension, heat stroke, and shock are classic examples of disturbed homeostasis. Severe failure may even result in death. Every homeostatic mechanism works through a control system made up of three components: receptor, control center, and effector. These components work together continuously to monitor internal conditions and correct any deviation from the normal set point. The correction occurs through feedback mechanisms, which may be negative or positive. The receptor is responsible for detecting changes in the internal or external environment. It senses stimuli such as changes in temperature, pressure, or chemical composition, and sends this information to the control center. Examples include thermoreceptors for temperature, chemoreceptors for blood gases, and baroreceptors for blood pressure. The control center receives information from receptors and compares it with the normal value or set point. If a deviation is detected, the control center sends signals to effectors to bring the parameter back to normal. In the human body, the hypothalamus plays a major role as a control center, especially for temperature and endocrine regulation.
Effectors are the organs or tissues that carry out corrective responses. These may include muscles, glands, or other organs. For example, sweat glands act as effectors during temperature regulation, while muscles act as effectors during shivering. Feedback mechanisms are self-regulatory processes in which the output of a system influences the input. There are two types of feedback mechanisms: negative feedback, positive feedback. Most physiological processes use negative feedback to maintain stability, while positive feedback is used in special situations. Negative feedback is the most common mechanism in the human body. In this mechanism, the response opposes or reverses the original stimulus, helping to restore normal conditions. Once the normal level is reached, the corrective response stops automatically. This prevents overcorrection. Let's take body temperature regulation as an example. When body temperature rises, thermoreceptors detect the change and send signals to the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus activates sweat glands and causes vasodilation, increasing heat loss. When body temperature falls, shivering and vasoconstriction occur, increasing heat production. This opposing response maintains a normal body temperature of about 37 degrees Celsius. Another classic example is regulation of blood glucose levels. After a meal, blood glucose increases and insulin is released from the pancreas. Insulin promotes glucose uptake by cells, reducing blood glucose levels. When blood glucose decreases, glucagon is released, stimulating glucose release from the liver. This mechanism maintains blood glucose within normal limits.
Positive feedback is less common and works differently from negative feedback. Here, the response amplifies or enhances the original stimulus rather than opposing it. The process continues until a specific endpoint is reached, after which the mechanism stops.
Childbirth is a classic example of positive feedback. Stretching of the cervix stimulates nerve receptors, leading to the release of oxytocin from the pituitary gland. Oxytocin increases uterine contractions, which causes further cervical stretching. This cycle continues and intensifies until the baby is delivered, after which the feedback loop stops.
Blood clotting is another example of positive feedback. When a blood vessel is injured, platelets adhere to the damaged area and release chemicals. These chemicals attract more platelets, rapidly forming a clot. Once the clot is formed and bleeding stops, the positive feedback mechanism ends. Negative feedback maintains stability by opposing changes and is continuous throughout life. Positive feedback enhances changes and is short-lived, stopping once a specific event is completed. Both mechanisms are essential, but negative feedback is far more common in maintaining homeostasis. To summarize, homeostasis is the maintenance of a stable internal environment. It is essential for survival and proper functioning of cells and organs. Negative feedback mechanisms maintain balance, while positive feedback mechanisms help complete specific physiological processes. Together, they ensure efficient functioning of the human body. And here we are wrapping up. We can see in next video.